2024 Ark Big Ideas annual research report has just dropped, and today we're going to be focusing on some Tesla-centric technologies and looking at some of the potential implications, which are rather massive. For those who don't know, Ark focus on 5 different innovation platforms, each of which, to some degree or another, are converging with at least one other. But as it relates to Tesla, we have the convergence of artificial intelligence, energy storage, and robotics. And yes, electric vehicles do fall under energy storage. And what Tesla's developing also, robotics and artificial intelligence. Never mind Tesla's actual energy storage products, their battery cells, never mind their actual humanoid robots, and never mind the fact that Tesla is inevitably on the path to ultimately solving artificial general intelligence. First, a truly fascinating slide. AI is accelerating faster than forecasters anticipated. So let me explain what we're looking at here. This is the expected years until the launch of a general artificial intelligence system. And just for the record, for the nerds, this is a log scale. In 2019, before GPT-3, the average estimate for artificial general intelligence was about 80 years away. Then OpenAI announces GPT-3, some of the capabilities, and suddenly the average forecast plummets by 30 years overnight, which clearly indicates a gigantic margin of error. How does the single breakthrough suddenly bring this date forward, on average, the consensus opinion, by 3 fucking decades? Soon after, experts then anticipating on average AGI just 34 years away. So in the span of just a couple of years, the expected years until the launch of AGI went from 80 to 50 to 34. And we're not done yet. Then to 18. And now we're at 8. So between 2019 and 2023, the expert consensus forecast for the emergence of artificial general intelligence, instead of decreasing by 4 years to 76, it went from 80 to 8. A change approximately 1 order of magnitude. Now, if today's forecasts are well tuned, that would mean the actual emergence date of artificial general intelligence would be 2030. However, if the forecast era continues, it could be 2026. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is just to underscore how utterly useless consensus opinions are and expectations for the emergence of breakthrough technologies. Prior to the breakthroughs slapping people in the face, 80 years away. Bro, it's nearly a century until AGI emerges. Wait, what? GPT-3? That's, oh, shit, I didn't see that coming. Oh, maybe it's sooner. Maybe mid-century or so. Damn, this ChatGPT is pretty crazy. And the reason I underscore this, as it relates to Tesla, they're currently working on this system, full self-driving, autonomy, discussing a potential fleet of robotaxis awakening almost overnight. And most people say that's never going to happen, or that's decades away, or that's pie in the sky, or that's a stock pump. They're high, they don't know what they're talking about. It's years away, decades away. And look, it could be, but I just wanted to emphasize, humans have a terrible, terrible track record of anticipating technological breakthroughs and their implications and their timelines until they've already happened. Special shout out, by the way, to the GOAT Ray Kurzweil, who roughly 25 years ago first predicted AGI, roughly at the end of this decade. That motherfucker was laughed at and ridiculed by almost everybody until he wasn't. So shout out to Ray Kurzweil, what a legend. Now check this out. Individual technology advances can coalesce and cascade into massive new market opportunities. Case in point, the convergence of neural networks, advanced battery technology, and autonomous mobility equals exponentially increasing capabilities and exponentially decreasing costs. So, to neural networks, basically brain power, silicon brain power. Advanced AI enables robotaxis to rely on fewer, less expensive sensors. Case in point, Waymo, with their absolute clusterfuck of sensors on their current robotaxi, Ark estimates their vehicle manufacturing costs per robotaxi about $175,000 US for 5 lidars, 29 cameras, 6 radars, 8 ultrasonic sensors, and laughable capabilities relative to what Tesla's doing with pure vision. Just 9 cameras. Tesla's average cost to manufacture a vehicle, sub $45,000. You have to understand, as neural networks advance, as AI improves, companies will get more bang for buck. We already have proof of concept. Hundreds of millions of examples of a dual camera neural network based system relatively competently driving vehicles. They're called human beings. In the fullness of time, in theory, a dual camera, not 9 camera, a dual camera system could match and exceed human capabilities. Of course, a 9 camera system that can see all directions simultaneously, obviously over time, will far exceed human capability. Yet there are companies today like Waymo with an absolute clusterfuck of expensive, unnecessary and confusing sensors, LiDAR, cameras, radar, all sorts of other bullshit as well, which can confuse a lot of people. This is a bad path to choose. Combine this with advanced battery technology, which reduce robotaxi operating costs versus internal combustion engine by 60%. So the combination of AI and battery electric drivetrains enables robotaxi systems to scale. And remember, humans have a very bad track record of predicting breakthroughs in technology like robotaxis and the capabilities until after the fact. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you'll have seen the incredible, and I mean incredible, breakthrough hockey stick moment in terms of the capabilities and results of text-to-image models. We can see on screen now. I'll zoom in a little bit. But out of seemingly nowhere, almost overnight, these capabilities shot up. Here's the prompt. A herd of elephants walking across a green grass field. February 2016. I mean, some pixels that are probably the right colors and roughly maybe sort of the right shapes, kind of. I think that's a shape. But anyway, it's progress, but seemingly a very long way to go. Then a huge breakthrough. February 2022, Midjourney version 1. Clearly, pretty deep in on the DMT trip, but a remarkable change in resolution, fidelity, and we are actually getting some elephant vibes. If I had to guess, visually this is an approximation for where Tesla FSD currently is. And if you squint, they're elephants, it's grass, but not perfect. Still some glitches, some errors, some bugs. Then out of absolutely nowhere, the same fucking year, from February to November, 9 months from getting there to holy shit. Look at this, a legit herd of elephants. We've gone from tripping balls, but mate, they're probably elephants if you really squint. Very well hung, for the record. To this, approaching photorealistic, incredible fidelity. What happened? 9 months from this to this. What happened was a step change in the capabilities of generative AI. But we ain't done yet. Incredible though this may be, relative to 9 months earlier. Fast forward to December 2023, and we're now at a point where Midjourney V6 can generate images that are, to most people, indistinguishable from photographs, photorealistic. And notice the change, the different kinds of outputs. The scenes we were seeing here, very similar. Elephants looking almost identical to one another like clones, walking in a too perfect formation. So little variation. Clearly impressive, but not photorealistic. And now look at this, batshit fucking insane. Just to zoom in to illustrate the point here. I mean, if you really scour, you might find a blade of grass that's a little bit out of place or something not quite right. But it's got to take some serious work. This is utterly incredible. So why the emphasis on the progress of generative AI from this absolute horse shit in 2016 to tripping balls, but making progress in early 2022 to incredible breakthrough late that same year to holy shit. Rest in peace, artists, photographers, designers, illustrators, basically anyone that does anything visually creative for a living. Back to this slide for one moment. We're terrible at predicting breakthroughs until they've already happened. And stick with me, folks, because I'm building to a very important point, at least if you're a Tesla investor or you're not a Tesla investor. We're now looking at the cost of authoring the written word, which has collapsed. This again is a log scale. If you know, you know. Seeing a vertical drop on a log scale, what is going on? Until 2022, the cost of authoring written content per 1,000 words written was roughly $100, just a little over. We're now at a few cents, staggering. Rest in peace, everybody who writes for a living. It's also important to understand that AI training costs are plummeting. Ark expecting costs to fall by 75% per year until 2030. Now, with that very important foundation laid, we're going to look at Ark's research around electric vehicles, and that's not where we're going to finish, but it is where we're going to start. Key quote: if robotaxi platforms proliferate, electric vehicles could account for 95 to 100% of vehicle sales in 2030. Further, Ark forecasts that electric vehicle sales will scale at a 33% annual rate during the next 7 years, from roughly 10 million electric vehicles sold in 2023, by the way. Ark have brains and are only counting actual electric vehicles as opposed to fake electric vehicles with vibrator-sized batteries in them, also known as hybrids. There are roughly 10 million pure electric vehicles sold last year. Scale to 74 million in 2030, which is basically the size of the entire automotive market per year. And a reminder that Tesla themselves have a publicly stated goal. Doesn't mean they'll get there, but they're aiming to produce and sell 20 million electric vehicles in 2030. That would be roughly 27% of all vehicles sold at the end of the decade, which is within reason, right? It's not that crazy. It's not like they're aiming for 90% of all vehicles sold, not even 50, not even 30. This chart is what disruption looks like in a nutshell. Now, it's very easy to not understand what's occurring here. We're looking at global vehicle sales growth, internal combustion engine versus battery electric vehicles. And ICE vehicle sales have peaked. In fact, they appear to have peaked 5-6 years ago, around 2018. Electric vehicle sales year-over-year increased 70% in 2018. ICE vehicle sales down 2%. Now, keep in mind, electric vehicles starting from a very low base in terms of absolute numbers. So have a 2% decline in ICE vehicles in 2018, 4% in 2019, 15% in 2020. Then, due to the scamdemic, the supply chain shutdowns and so on, a slight rebound to 1% increase in 2021. Meanwhile, electric vehicles, 113% increase. Then a 4% decline in 2022 and a slight rebound 2023 again. The shockwaves from the supply chain induced clusterfuck as a result of the scamdemic shutdowns caused a ripple that may confuse a few people, thinking, oh, ICE vehicles are increasing. Oh, look, oh no, look, EVs are not really happening. Not going to age well. It is official, ICE vehicle sales have peaked and ICE vehicle sales are going to see an accelerating decline, a collapse. They're going to plunge off a cliff. It's a death spiral. I don't think legacy automotive manufacturers have quite figured this out yet. Or maybe they know, but they just don't want to say it out loud. The auto industry is likely to consolidate. Now, I'll just translate to be super clear. Ark are a lot more delicate, but okay. What this means is most automotive manufacturers are fucked. They're going to go bankrupt. That's what consolidation means. Most players are disappearing. There'll be a few mergers and acquisitions, but most are just going out of business. If EV adoption continues to gain traction, traditional automakers may be forced to restructure and consolidate, as in file for bankruptcy, get acquired for a penny on the dollar, something like that. Now, what we're looking at here, this chart is quite telling. Global battery electric vehicle sales, the market share. Notice, this is a beautiful exponential curve. We've gone from fractions of a fraction of a percent back in 2013 to now breaching the 10% barrier a decade later. Many of the supposed experts forecasting EV adoption, for some strange reason, project in a linear fashion from wherever we are, and they're always off the mark by a really embarrassing margin. But just imagine this trend continuing, right? It's not going to be too far before we're up here. Now, regarding these legacy automotive manufacturers who are completely and utterly fine, October 17th, 2023, GM delays EV truck production at Michigan plant by a year. Morons. VW Group delays EV battery plant in Europe amid sluggish EV demand. And check this quote out from VW's CEO. There is, for the time being, no business rationale for deciding on further sites, says one of the biggest DMFs on the planet. EV disruption inevitable. CEO of the Volkswagen Group. No, it's not inevitable. It doesn't make any sense for us to scale and expand more because EV demand is sluggish. Idiot. And December 11th, 2023, Ford will cut weekly production of F-150 Lightning in response to slowing demand. I mean, these decisions are going to go down as some of the worst of all time. This may as well be the Blockbuster CEO saying, we're not particularly concerned about Netflix disrupting us. We know that consumers really love the experience of getting in their fucking car, driving, finding a park, wasting time, wasting money, having to physically browse the shelves, select a movie to rent, taking it home, being late by 3 days and getting fucked so hard they have to pay $100 in fines. We know consumers love that experience and we're not at all concerned about streaming disrupting us because it's more convenient, faster, has lower overheads. Consumers don't want that. We were going to get into streaming, but we've decided that we're going to slow down our transition into streaming because physical movies are here to stay for a long time. It doesn't make business sense. There's no business rationale. Well, maybe the Kodak CEO. Well, despite the fact that we ourselves have invented the digital camera, obviously consumers won't want that, so we're going to shelve it. I could keep going on. I think you get the point. Most legacy auto companies are currently being run by dumb fucks. That's the technical term for an incompetent CEO that will inevitably destroy the company. And spoiler alert, too little, too late now. Doesn't matter if they get fired, get a golden parachute and someone else comes in to save the day. It's too late. Wright's Law has modelled the decline of battery costs accurately. Now, isn't that something to ponder? If Wright's Law continues to accurately model battery cost declines, we can infer a few things from that, right? Like how much batteries will cost at a certain point in the future and how much cheaper that would make electric vehicles just based on a cheaper battery, never mind other things that have cost declines as well. The short story, according to Wright's Law, for every cumulative doubling in the number of kilowatt hours produced, battery costs will fall by 28%. Given the fact that batteries are the most expensive thing by far in an electric vehicle, the implications here are profound. And remember, it's not just electric vehicles that require these lithium-ion batteries. Energy storage products and many other products as well meaning global production of lithium-ion batteries is going to be far in excess of what's required just for electric vehicles, meaning there's huge room for massive sustained cost declines over time. It's also worth noting that Wright's law points to faster EV charging rates as well. The actual only legitimate downside to electric vehicles today versus an ICE vehicle, charging speed versus time to refuel. For most people, it's not a big deal. However, at some point in the near future, it's not going to be an issue at all, period, for anyone. Let me explain. In the past 5 years, charging rates for 200 miles of range have improved nearly threefold, from 40 minutes to 12 minutes, and could drop another threefold to 4 minutes over the next 5 years. Just imagine that. You can now put 200 miles on your electric vehicle in 4 minutes. The last possible excuse, I like my ICE car, I can refuel it in a few minutes. Gone. And this chart is entitled, Tesla does not exist in a vacuum. Many EV manufacturers are struggling to scale profitably. In the absence of an EV supply chain, Tesla had little choice but to vertically integrate. Now that the supply chain is evolving, other auto manufacturers will reach profitability if they scale. Many are pulling back from the market, however, because the already profitable market leaders are cutting prices aggressively. This is why I always emphasize that Tesla does not exist in a bubble. Tesla has industry-leading profit margins on electric vehicles and industry-leading scale. And they are driving prices lower, meaning companies that don't want to go out of business, and this is going to get complicated, but I'll try and make it make sense. Companies that don't want to go out of business actually need to follow Tesla in cutting prices, yet the problem is if they're not making such profit margins as Tesla, some of them making a little bit but not much, they may start losing money if they cut prices. But if they don't cut prices, they're not going to sell enough electric vehicles at scale to eventually reach high enough volumes and drive their costs down to actually start making money. That was a very long-winded way of saying most of these companies are fucked either way. Tesla is forcing the hand of the entire industry. If you do not follow our prices to consumers, you will not sell electric vehicles to consumers, which companies like GM and Ford are starting to find out. But the only way that these companies can successfully follow Tesla with pricing is if they can aggressively drive their costs down at an even faster rate than Tesla, and good luck with that. There are a few companies in China producing electric vehicles profitably, although they don't have huge profit margins, but hey, at least they're making some money. But outside of China, Tesla's the only company making any money on electric vehicles, and they are the company dictating terms in the entire industry in terms of what consumers pay for electric vehicles. We can see on screen, global luxury battery electric vehicle unit sales at various price points. Higher on the chart equals more units sold per region, and further to the right, more expensive. A massive outlier here is Tesla's Model Y in China, getting close to 500,000 units sold per year in the mid $40,000 range. For comparison, at half or a third the price, BYD selling, if they're lucky, 300,000 units, 280,000 units on some of their models for a fraction of the price in China. Notice this cluster of purple? These are companies selling electric vehicles and getting absolutely smoked by Tesla and BYD. And we now know that EVs have hit price parity with internal combustion engine vehicles. A hugely important moment. And spoiler alert, as battery costs continue to decline, EV prices should fall, potentially driving exponential growth in unit sales. Now, please don't show this chart to the Tesla should advertise aggressively and just keep selling their vehicles for today's prices indefinitely crowd. But this is a really important one, possibly the most important in the entire presentation. Vehicle price versus addressable market. These prices in thousands of dollars, as in, this is 50,000, this is 25,000. Notice something. The addressable market for electric vehicles selling for an average price of $50,000 is a few percent of the global vehicle market. Once these vehicles reach around 37,000, however, now they could suddenly account for 10, 12, maybe approaching 15%. Yet, for every $1,000 decline from that point forward, you see an exponential increase in the number of consumers who can afford these vehicles and therefore will buy them. By the time we reach a $25,000 electric vehicle, the addressable market is roughly half of the entire automotive market. By the time we get to about, call it $18,000, essentially the entire global automotive market. Anyone know any companies that are driving costs down to the point where they could actually soon begin producing, let's say, a $25,000 electric vehicle and then drive the costs of that platform even lower over the next few years? For example, I know there's this company Tesla who've managed to drive costs down by more than 35% on some of their more recent vehicles in the first few years since they began producing them. I'm very bad at math, so I just use a calculator and discovered that if you knock 30% off 25,000, you end up at 17,500, which, I mean, in theory, if a company They developed a manufacturing system and done some innovations to a point where they could start producing a $25,000 vehicle soon, and then over the next few years, the cost to do that could decline by 30+%. They would essentially have developed the vehicle that would allow them to scale to tens of millions of vehicles sold per year, because in essence, their addressable market would be everyone on Earth who can afford a vehicle, period. Not just people who are really well off. Of course, I'm just kidding. You know what? Fuck this. Tesla should just advertise. This is a dumb chart. This should say how much money you spend on advertising versus what % of the vehicle market you could control and own by just advertising to people who can't afford your vehicle. Oh, shit. I can't believe they actually said it. But they actually said it. Internal combustion engine vehicles should lose significant share. If EVs continue to gain share, as we believe they will, then used cars and new electric vehicles will make more economic sense than new internal combustion engine vehicles, perhaps causing a death spiral for incumbent auto manufacturers. I can't believe they said it. I mean, they're right. It's just that this is exactly how I've been describing this clusterfuck, this inevitable catastrophe for years. A death spiral. As EV and used car prices fall, consumers could delay purchases, waiting for even lower price points. What we can see here, Ark's ICE vehicle forecast. First, we have actuals to 2023, and then a plunge. Check this out. Ark expecting a major drop in 2024 of ICE vehicle sales, and more decline, and suddenly, 2028, the last year in which any meaningful number of ICE vehicles are sold on Earth, period. Just a reminder, it's currently 2024, let's count, ready? 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half a decade. That's it. You think any legacy automotive manufacturers believe this is going to occur? One more time. Death spiral. And now on to the big one. Robotaxis. Hopefully you didn't just skip ahead with the chapters below because you missed a lot of important context. Some key words here. Thanks to breakthroughs in AI, robotaxis are beginning to revolutionize urban travel and could, wait for it, accelerate the unraveling of the auto loan sector. Something I've discussed many times in the past, going back years. Now, this is kind of important, by the way. If you're curious, look at the financial statements of some legacy automotive manufacturers. In particular, their finance arms, their auto finance arms. See how much debt they're carrying, secured against what assets whose values are going to collapse. How many of their profits are generated from this potential sector, auto loans, that may experience an accelerated unraveling. Make sure you're sitting down for this. According to Ark's research, robotaxi platforms could redefine personal mobility and generate $28 trillion in enterprise value during the next 5 to 10 years. That's not 50 to 100 years, that's 5 to 10 years. 28 trillion. Trillion with a T. So in other words, a very small opportunity that you should definitely ignore. Now, obviously, autonomous ride-hail is likely to increase access to convenient point-to-point transportation. Ark Invest estimate that in 2030, autonomous robotaxis could scale to a point where it costs consumers as little as 25 cents per mile, a fraction of the cost of personally owning a vehicle, and a hell of a lot more convenient. You don't need to take it for servicing. You don't need to even change the wiper fluid, the tyres. You don't need a garage to park it, which is extremely important for people who live in very populous areas. I'm currently recording this in Sydney. Where I live, a single car space, if I were to purchase it, about $500,000, maybe more. Not kidding. So much more convenient. The hail on demand, which is what I already do. I'm just paying significantly more than 25 cents per mile. Robotaxis are operating in around 20 cities globally as I record this, with fully driverless commercial options in at least 7 cities. So yeah, just to be clear, robotaxis are already here, although very limited in scope, scale, and capability. But this isn't maybe one day. No. They're already here. A very important chart here on the right. Autonomous miles, run rate. Annualized run rate of how many millions of miles are being driven by vehicles. You know, the data's kind of important to improving the capabilities. Tesla with such an embarrassing lead in terms of data, miles driven. Cruise doesn't even register on this chart. Waymo, a blip. I mean, you can barely see it. You probably can't. And Baidu, in second place. Bro, this is ridiculous. What we're looking at here, miles between crashes on surface streets only. The national average in the United States, 1 crash per 192,000 miles on surface streets. Cruise is embarrassingly, meaningfully less safe as measured by accidents per thousands of miles. That's awkward. Did it, Mary? Waymo, meaningfully safer. Now, it is important to understand that Waymo, Cruise, etc., They are geofenced. They're operating in very small regions. They've already pre-mapped in HD. They're using expensive LiDAR to bounce signals off to make sure nothing's changed. The curb's still there. That's still there. There's a tree here. This isn't to diminish the facts, which are the facts. Waymo vehicles having less accidents on surface streets per 1,000 miles than humans. It is just to point out that the way they're going about this is not necessarily a solution that will scale. Humans driving Tesla vehicles having one accident per 583,000 miles versus the national average per 192. Basically, 1/3 as many accidents. Now, this can tell us a few things. One, either Tesla drivers are better, and or two, they maintain their vehicles, better tyres, brakes, etc., which is also likely. And also that Tesla's active safety features help reduce the number of accidents. But check this out. Tesla vehicles in FSD, one accident per 3.2 million miles on surface streets versus the national average, one every 192,000. In full self-driving mode on surface streets, a Tesla appears to be 5 times safer than a Tesla in manual mode and 16 times safer than the national average. Now, there is an important caveat. Drivers operating in FSD must be super attentive and ready to take over at any time. So this is clearly skewing the data somewhat. However, the facts are the facts. Obviously, a vehicle with superhuman reaction speeds and vision, in theory, is going to be capable of driving better than a human. As it stands today, a human is required to babysit this software. And the combination of these two, by the way, the babysitting is actually training the software. Every time there's an intervention, it's like, oh shit, we learned something. Let's figure out why the human intervened and then we can integrate that and get better. So there's less interventions. A fraction of the accidents on surface streets versus the national average. And this safety over time will continue to improve. Here's something that people may not have considered. Autonomous electric transport should save around 10,000 US lives per year lost to vehicle emissions. Air pollution from gas-powered passenger vehicles is associated with 9,700 deaths in the US annually. Wonder how that compares to gun violence. According to Ark's research, autonomous electric vehicles should prevent around 10,000 deaths in 2030. And for those of you who don't know, air pollution is a seriously big deal. And I mean a seriously big deal. Any real estate investors out there, you've probably looked at overlays in certain areas. You'll see there's literally air quality overlays for some regions because they're too close to main roads, arterial roads, etc. And it's like the air's shit. By the way, pro tip, if you can afford it, and I know it's beyond some people's means, I highly recommend using a home air filter, as many as are necessary to keep the air in your home as clean as possible. I also recommend driving a vehicle that has a high quality HEPA filter, like a Tesla. This shit is no joke. Pro tip, also recommend filtering your water, but it's a topic for another video. Ride-hail is likely to create an $11 trillion addressable market. By the way, just a quick aside, if you guys are curious, my own assumptions for Tesla, ride-hail, cents per mile, and the scale of the addressable market, all available in my Tesla valuation model. If you want access, head over to Patreon with the link in the description. You must join at the investor level and above. Or, alternatively, build your own model. But this is an important point to understand. As the cost per mile declines, obviously, the number of people who can afford to use ride-hail, Robotaxis, transport on demand, will increase, and in a non-linear fashion. So the short story, at around $2 per mile, the market relative to its possible potential is tiny. At $1 a mile, meaningful, roughly 1 trillion miles per year. And here's where things get very interesting. And this is why I talk about a non-linear relationship. Ark estimate 1 trillion miles per year at $1 per mile. At 60 cents per mile, 5 trillion miles per year. At 50 cents per mile, just going from 60 cents to 50, the number of miles doubles from 5 trillion to 10 trillion. And a halving from 50 cents per mile to 25 cents per mile sees the total miles traveled in a year from 10 trillion to 30 trillion. Here's a fun exercise. Just imagine a company that had widely deployed robotaxis participating in a market of 30 trillion total miles per year at 25 cents per mile. If you were curious about the potential scale of the opportunity there, what you would do is think, what share of that market might they get? Pull a random number out of your ass, ideally think about it first, and then multiply that percentage of 30 trillion by 25 cents to determine the astronomical revenue potential for this company. For example, I'll use a nice, easy number. 10% of 30 trillion is 3 trillion. Imagine a company had 10% of the global robotaxi market. 3 trillion miles times 25 cents per mile equals $750 billion. For context, Tesla's entire revenue as a company in 2023 was roughly 10% that figure. And now you might ask yourself, well, what would Tesla's profit will those 25 cents per mile be? What would their share of the 25 cents be? The platform fee, would it be 20%, 30%? Let's split it down the middle and say they take a 25% platform fee. In other words, they're getting 6.25 cents of those 25 cents per mile. That'd be close to $200 billion of essentially pure profit. What kind of a multiple would you put on a company doing almost $200 billion in profits from a single service, just their Robotaxi platform? Good question, isn't it? And again, if you want to see the kind of multiple I'd put on such a company, head over to Patreon and check out my Tesla valuation model. Link in description. Ark also expect that the platforms facilitating the first 50% of urban autonomous miles should generate the bulk of earnings. Ark expecting that 80% of the profits basically will go to the companies offering the first 50% of urban autonomous miles. In other words, any companies that happen to A, have a technological lead, and B, a solution that will scale fast and widely, are likely to take the lion's share of the profits. I wish I knew such a company. I might buy a little bit of their stock. And now the inevitable bloodbath hidden in plain sight. Autonomous electric vehicle adoption could disrupt the US auto loan industry. During the past 3 years, interest rate hikes have increased new vehicle monthly car loan payments by around 27%, from 581 to 793. As a result, the number of subprime auto loans delinquent by 60 plus days, as in the sketchy loans to people that had to probably pay a higher interest rate due to the chance that they would fall behind on repayments, recently hit an all-time high. This is a red alert situation for the auto loan industry. Thanks to Wright's law, EV prices should continue to fall, shifting more miles onto electric platforms and, this is important, decreasing the value of gas-powered vehicles. As a result, the $1.6 trillion in auto loans currently sitting on financial institution balance sheets, issued predominantly for gas-powered vehicles, could be at risk over the next 10 years. I'm sure it's nothing to see here, move along. Autonomous platform providers could create $28 trillion in enterprise value in 2030. Where are you sitting down? So, do some rough numbers here. Just hypothetically, if Ark are right, imagine a company had, or let's pull another random easy number out of our ass, 10%. A company that had just 10% share of autonomous ride-hail. If Ark are right, that company alone, their ride-hail business alone, will be valued at around 2.8 trillion. What if they had 20%? 5.6 trillion. What about 30%? I'm not going to answer that. The point is, this is a fucking gigantic opportunity that dwarfs just about anything you can imagine. Unfortunately, there are no such companies that I'm aware of that happen to have an obvious and unassailable lead, a huge fleet, the ability to scale rapidly and widely, which is a big shame because I'd really like to buy some of their stock. Does anyone know any companies like that? Let me know in the comments. And to contextualize this, we're looking at revenue, earnings, and enterprise value in 2023 for actual automotive manufacturers. Revenue, 2.75 trillion. EBIT, 200 bill. Enterprise value, 3.1 trill. Versus revenue, earnings, and enterprise value in 2030, these are Ark estimates for autonomous electric automotive manufacturers, 900 billion in revenue, fleet owners of said vehicles, 3.2 trillion in revenue. Wait a minute, so you're telling me that owners of fleets of electric vehicles in 2030 will be doing more revenue than the entire global automotive business today? Well, per Ark's estimates, yes. Autonomous platform providers, 3.8 trillion in revenue. Those same autonomous platform providers, man, I really wish I knew a company that looked like they were going to be one of those providers. Almost 2 trillion in EBIT, and enterprise value of the platform providers, not too far off $30 trillion. Man, that's such a big opportunity. It really pisses me off that there's no obvious leader in this space. God damn. I mean, if there was, and if Ark were right, I don't think the market's understanding the opportunity here. It doesn't seem to be priced in. Now, trolling aside, I really do want to underscore two things regarding autonomy. Clearly, the opportunity absolutely dwarfs anything to do with automotive. Dwarfs is a serious understatement. And, as we saw much earlier in this presentation, the progress of AI is happening exponentially, but more to the point, the ability of intelligent people to accurately predict these breakthroughs is at best total horseshit and extremely embarrassing. If history repeats or even rhymes, and the so-called experts who are not forecasting robotaxis widely available for many, many years to come, even in some cases decades, if they're wrong by a similar degree to their error on predicting other breakthroughs, in short, if Ark's estimates are more on the money, literally, it seems to suggest that there are companies today developing the technology today that in the span of the next few years and throughout the rest of this decade will accrue unfathomable amounts of value and print truly incredible amounts of money on the back of these incredibly disruptive technologies that most people are doubting. If only such a company existed today that seemed to have an obvious advantage, an unassailable data lead, scale, obvious capabilities regarding AI. We're scaling up training compute, great leadership, incredible engineers, a pool of brilliant AI talent. If only such a company existed, and if Ark's research were on point, it may in fact be the greatest single risk-adjusted opportunity available in the public markets. But sadly, there's definitely no such company. And in unrelated matters, just for the record, I still am currently buying Tesla stock with every spare cent, which is obviously completely unrelated. Bye. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. It's an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, Snake Oil Salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, When I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.